Okay, hello everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing you to our final Voice of Gen Z speaker of the day, Rachel. She'll be talking about the imposter syndrome, and without further ado, I'll hand it over to Rachel.
Hi everybody. I'm Rachel Kurapati. Quick introduction. I am a sophomore in Seattle, Washington, in the USA, and I'm so glad to be presenting here. Thanks so much to Claire and Sophia for organizing this whole event. So let's go ahead and get this started. So everyone, I'm here to play Among Us with you. So grab your devices, get your phones out, and enter in the code YZVGA, go to North America, and get ready, okay? I'm kidding. Sorry to those of you who got excited. I'd love to play Among Us with you, but today I did want to talk about Among Us. So I bet you all know about Among Us, but for those who don't know, I'll give a quick little explanation. So Among Us is kind of a murder mystery game. In the game, you're assigned a role, and based on whatever role you get, you're either a crewmate, in which case you go around the ship trying to do your tasks and try not to get killed. And then if you're the imposter, you go around the ship trying to kill all the crewmates without being noticed. If you're the imposter, you're pretending to be someone you aren't. And that's where imposter syndrome comes into play. So what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern in which an individual undervalues their skills, talents, or accomplishments, and has a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. So let's take an example. Imagine you're one of these successful business people, making 6 figures, writing multiple books, you're a revolutionary in your field, and you're totally awesome. You're on the board of directors of your company, but you think that you don't deserve to be there, and that you're not what they think you are. And this is exactly what imposter syndrome is. So here's a short video that will explain a little bit more. I think, let me pause. Let me know if you can hear it. Wait, could you hear that, Claire, Sophia?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Even after writing 11 books and winning several prestigious awards, Maya Angelou couldn't escape the nagging doubt that she hadn't really earned her accomplishments. Albert Einstein experienced something similar. He described himself as an involuntary swindler whose work didn't deserve as much attention as it had received. Accomplishments at the level of Angelou's or Einstein's are rare, but their feeling of fraudulence is extremely common. Why can't so many of us shake feelings that we haven't earned our accomplishments, or that our ideas and skills aren't worthy of others' attention? Psychologist Pauline Rose Clance was the first to study this unwarranted sense of insecurity. In her work as a therapist, she noticed many of her undergraduate patients shared a concern. Though they had high grades, they didn't believe they deserved their spots at the university. Some even believed their acceptance had been an admissions error. While Clance knew these fears were unfounded, she could also remember feeling the exact same way in graduate school. She and her patients experienced something that goes by a number of names: imposter phenomenon, imposter experience, and imposter syndrome.
Okay, so you might say, now Rachel, I know what imposter syndrome is, but I feel helpless against it. How could I fight it? Well, I'm glad you asked. So now it's time for you all to let me know how you feel. So go to vvox.app, enter in the session ID, or you can scan the QR code. And it'll take you to the question, which is list a few words about yourself that you might use during a negative self-talk. Note that you can't put any spaces when you enter in your answers, so maybe try putting hyphens or capitalizing your words to make sure that we get your whole response. Also, after you put in your response, stay connected to the session. We'll be using it later. So let me go to VVox. Yeah. So this is a word cloud, which is being updated in real time, which means that the responses that are bigger and in the middle are the more common ones. So I can see that people are like joining and keep putting in words so we can see like how you all feel about yourself. And this is completely anonymous, so don't worry about it. So while these responses continue to roll in, we're not seeing good words here. Stupid, dumb, useless, worthless. These are not good words. I know that all of you in this audience are great human beings. And if I took 10 minutes to sit with every single one of you, I'd really enjoy those 10 minutes. And I've had a great time with all of you. So why are you all thinking of yourselves this way? That is what we're going to tackle after we wait for a couple seconds. Yeah. So these words are not good. So let's try to get rid of this negative self-dialogue. So I'm glad you asked. Here's what we'll be talking about for the rest of our time together. What to know and anchor thoughts. First up, you should know that you're not alone. There's a study conducted that said that 70% of people will experience the symptoms of imposter syndrome at least once in their lifetime. And that means that it's really common. The next thing you need to know is that you need to define when good enough is good enough for yourself. Many people who suffer from imposter syndrome are high achievers, people who set extremely high standards for themselves, and they're committed to doing the best and being the best. And that's totally admirable. But perfection sometimes feeds into imposter syndrome. When you feel like a fraud, it's normally because you're comparing yourself to some perfect outcome that's either impossible or unrealistic. Not only can no one do everything perfectly, but holding yourself to that standard can actually be unproductive. At some point, you need to take a step back and ask yourself, when is good enough good enough? While striving for perfection is certainly good, it's usually not realistic, rather counterproductive, and will only make you feel like more of a fraud. Next, you should remember that you should be confident in yourself. It's very common for people who have imposter syndrome to turn down awesome opportunities because they feel like they wouldn't do well. When you're presented with a new opportunity, it's important to distinguish between the voice in your head saying that you can't do it because you aren't worthy, and the one saying that you can't do it because you have too much on your plate. But remember, taking on challenging new work and doing well at it can open up a lot of opportunities for you. Don't let your inner imposter turn down these game-changing opportunities. They can do wonders to help you learn and grow. Remember Richard Branson's famous quote, "If someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you aren't sure that you can do it, say yes, then learn how to do it later." While it might be intimidating to take on a role that you're not sure you can succeed in, know that you were asked to do it for a reason. And there's nothing wrong with learning new things and asking questions along the way. Okay, let's recap. So things you should know that you're not alone. You should also know your definition of what good enough is, and you should be confident in your abilities. Awesome, now we're on to anchor thoughts. First, what are anchor thoughts? Anchor thoughts are pre-established, planned out thoughts that help you stop the anxious spinning and return to a truthful and supportive place. But Rachel, what do you mean by spinning? Well, do you know when you go from one thought to another? That's like, Oh my gosh, I went to this party the other day and my mom, she made me wear this ugly sweater. I don't know what my friends are gonna think. Maybe they're gonna like disassociate with me and I'm gonna be lonely. Maybe the whole school is gonna pick up. So people are gonna take photos, spread it all over their social media. It's gonna go crazy. I'm gonna be 95 and in my rocking chair when I get a text from my old school classmate way back when about me in this ugly sweater. See what I mean? That's spiraling. When you're in that ocean of emotion, you need to have a few thoughts that can calm you down and bring you back to being yourself. So here's how to develop some of those anchor thoughts. First, identify situations, people, or environments that seem likely to trigger stress or anxiety. It could be right before you go into a big test, a relative's house, or anything else. Then, think about the emotions or feelings that you experience when you're in this, with this person, environment, or scenario. Maybe you start feeling jealous, angry, sad, maybe not good enough. Finally, write out 1 to 3 anchor thoughts that speak directly to your feelings. So here's an example. Say, whenever I go to Uncle Bob's house, he makes me feel not good enough because he always talks about my grades and how they're not perfect. So my anchor thought in response to this emotion is you're enough. So whenever I go to Uncle Bob's house, I'll tell myself that I'm enough and it will do wonders for me. Okay, so quick recap. We talked about a few things to know, and we also talked about anchor thoughts. I really hope that you'll take the time to go through and make your own anchor thoughts. And I promise you that it really does help. Let's finish the rest of this video.
Together with colleague Suzanne Imes, Clance first studied imposterism in female college students and faculty. Their work established pervasive feelings of fraudulence in this group. Since that first study, the same thing has been established across gender, race, age, and a huge range of occupations, though it may be more prevalent and disproportionately affect the experiences of underrepresented or disadvantaged groups. To call it a syndrome is to downplay how universal it is. It's not a disease or an abnormality, and it isn't necessarily tied to depression, anxiety, or self-esteem. Where do these feelings of fraudulence come from? People who are highly skilled or accomplished tend to think others are just as skilled. This can spiral into feelings that they don't deserve accolades and opportunities over other people. And as Angelou and Einstein experienced, there's often no threshold of accomplishment that puts these feelings to rest. Feelings of imposterism aren't restricted to highly skilled individuals either. Everyone is susceptible to a phenomenon known as pluralistic ignorance, where we each doubt ourselves privately, but believe we're alone in thinking that way because no one else voices their doubts. Since it's tough to really know how hard our peers work, how difficult they find certain tasks, or how much they doubt themselves, there's no easy way to dismiss feelings that we're less capable than the people around us. Intense feelings of imposterism can prevent people from sharing their great ideas or applying for jobs and programs where they'd excel. At least so far, the most surefire way to combat imposter syndrome is to talk about it. Many people suffering from imposter syndrome are afraid that if they ask about their performance, their fears will be confirmed. And even when they receive positive feedback, it often fails to ease feelings of fraudulence. But on the other hand, hearing that an advisor or mentor has experienced feelings of imposterism can help relieve those feelings. The same goes for peers. Even simply finding out there's a term for these feelings can be an incredible relief. Once you're aware of the phenomenon, you can combat your own imposter syndrome by collecting and revisiting positive feedback. One scientist who kept blaming herself for problems in her lab started to document the causes every time something went wrong. Eventually, she realized most of the problems came from equipment failure and came to recognize her own competence. We may never be able to banish these feelings entirely, but we can have open conversations about academic or professional challenges. With increasing awareness of how common these experiences are, perhaps we can feel freer to be frank about our feelings and build confidence in some simple truths. You have talent, you are capable, and you belong. together with colleague Suzanne Imes.
Okay, so let's do another word cloud. This time, list some words that you could use as anchor thoughts or positive self-talk to boost your mood. So let's go to VBox and open that up and see what you all think. Okay, the poll is open. Please go ahead and list some of these words that you could use as anchor thoughts. Yeah, these are all very positive words. I'm so happy. Considering the words earlier, this is great. This makes me really happy. Yeah, praise, thoughtful, driven, hardworking, passionate, just right. I love that word. This is great, guys. That's awesome. See, now you all are so much more confident about each other. Like, I'm so happy. See, like the 360-degree mindset shift. This is amazing. Okay, so loved, smart, good enough, determined, hardworking, supportive. These are all great words that you could use as anchor thoughts when you're going through something, a stressful situation. So let's head back to the presentation. So great job. This is really awesome. Here are some extra resources. So I know we didn't get a whole lot of time together, but here are some extra resources that you can explore if you want. So I've linked a resources page, and that page has a lot more information about imposter syndrome and a bunch of other stuff. And there's also a survey on emotions that I'm conducting because I want to know how you feel. So you can scan the QR codes or go to these links, which I will drop in the chat as soon as I'm done. And if you need to contact me, you can contact me on Instagram, Discord, or my email. All of these are there, but they're also on the resources page. So I would suggest you check that out. Okay, so thank you so much, Claire and Sophia, for allowing me to speak. And also thank you to everyone who listened. So it really means a lot to me.
Thank you so much for speaking. And if anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the Q&A section. But if there aren't any questions, we will go ahead and head on to the next event, which Lucian wants you to go back to the QR code.
Yes, let me do that.
Also, thank you so much, Rachel, for the insightful presentation. And I think our audience is really inspired by it.
Yeah, this was an amazing presentation.
Thank you. Thank you
so much. Awesome. And we are recording it right now, and we will be uploading it onto YouTube. So like, don't worry if you don't get anything down. It will always be on YouTube.
Yes.
All right. That's great.